college is going to be a very interesting chapter of your life. You've taken on a lot more responsibility for the first time and fewer people around you to hold you accountable. For a lot of us, that is pretty overwhelming, right? So let's first address the mindset that you need to have before start addressing how to navigate this overwhelming feeling. Right? Now, in order to be successful, the first thing you got to answer is why? What is your goal? Specifically, what do you want to do with Amway? The purpose of a goal is to give your life direction and your actions purpose. Otherwise, how are you going to know if you're making progress? Once you have a goal, now you can start addressing the issue of how do I manage my time and my priorities? Until you answer this question, you are going to feel burdened with this business. Right? So there are four suggestions I'd recommend to help you mentally and practically manage your commitments. Suggestion number one, figure out if you are mentally overwhelmed or actually overwhelmed. Most of the times, we don't have much going on. We overthink and underperform on our commitments, and it's our inactivity that's the real issue. Sometimes it's exams because you didn't plan enough study time. Sometimes it's internships because you decided to wait to the last minute to start applying. And there's so many other examples, right? The bottom line, however, is college is not easy. That's why you need a plan. You can't wing it. Sometimes you may think that dropping a commitment like this business will help solve the problem, and I've heard everything. I've heard things like, once I have my life figured out, then I'll get back into this, right? And you start playing this game of Amway peekaboo, right? One day you're in, the next day you're out. Here's the hard truth. This business, especially in your early stages, only takes a few hours a week. You are in serious denial if you think a few extra hours a week will magically undo all the procrastination and poor planning up until this point. Robert Greene said this in his book, 33 Strategies of War. You are your own worst enemy. You waste precious time dreaming of the future instead of engaging in the present. And since nothing seems urgent to you, you're only half involved in what you do. The only way to change is through action and outside pressure. And he's right. The solution for being mentally overwhelmed is organize your commitments so that you can take action effectively. Which leads me to my second suggestion, maintaining a calendar. Kydland's law states if you write down a problem clearly, it's already half solved. A calendar is not a prison. It's a physical manifestation of your values and your priorities, and it can be adjusted, right? So how do you organize this calendar? First things first, you got to put in your syllabus dates, right? You put in your classes, your exams, project deadlines, all that stuff that's given to you on the first week of classes. Next, you put in dedicated study time. Cramming before an exam gives you the illusion of hard work. In reality, you're just being irresponsible with your commitments. Okay. Next, you'd put in your part-time jobs, your internships. For me, I would even put in dedicated time to send out job applications, right? Applying to jobs should not be a 9 to 5 commitment. It is really a few hours a day at most. Once you have your priorities set, now you could put in your business stuff. You put in your FNHs, your TESs, your phone teams, whatever other meetings that your upline has for you, right? Once all that stuff is in, you're going to look at your calendar and realize all the empty spaces. What do you do with those empty spaces? You go have fun, right? For me, having a calendar gave me the peace of mind knowing that when I'm having fun, it's not at the expense of my dreams and goals. My calendar is the number one reason I graduated from college while having an absolute blast along the way. I had so many commitments and so much fun outside of my classes, but I never missed an FNH because with the help of my uplines, I was able to outline my priorities and schedule my commitments so I have the bandwidth for fun, right? So that leads to my next question, right? How did I fit all this into my schedule, right? That leads me to suggestion number 3. Learn to say no. No is a complete sentence. Learn to say no without feeling guilty so that you could say yes to things that align with your values and your goals. But I understand saying no to your friends can be tough, right? Last minute parties, hangouts, especially if they take place during your business meetings, right? Fun is not the issue unless it starts affecting your goals, right? And the most difficult people to say no to would probably be your bosses or maybe your professors, especially if you're a TA or an RA, since they do have influence over your future. In those cases, I'd recommend over time learn to establish healthy boundaries, right? And there is a correct way of doing this. And the best way to learn that is from the leadership in this environment, which leads me to my last suggestion: associations. The priorities and time commitments of your circle will become your priorities and your commitments. So you got to ask yourself, does the long term dreams and aspirations of your circle match your values and your goals? Right? For me, I was very protective of this business environment because it gave me access to a higher caliber of people, right? In this business, the top three priorities are health, wealth, and relationships. Health, I mean, we have an entire product line dedicated to a healthy lifestyle, right? So obviously that's there. Second is wealth. The goal obviously here is to make some money. We also teach budgeting strategies to ensure you keep it. Part of wealth is also making sure that you do good at your job and your school. If you're failing there, you will have a difficult time here, right? And then relationships, right? This is a people business. There is so much taught about how to keep healthy relationships and boundaries with your uplines and your downlines. All those will eventually lead to everyone else in your life as well. Okay. Those success principles are the same. When you get around people who have a higher standard for their lives, you are forced to level up, and it can be uncomfortable, right? Every single one of you guys has an upline that has more things on their plate than the average person, but is still succeeding at a rate that's uncommon outside of that environment, outside of this environment. The phrase iron sharpens iron, I mean, this is what it looks like in action, right? Now, my final point, just to kind of tie all this up together, right? Once you have a handle on how to manage your time and priorities, you got to learn how to stay disciplined to those commitments. Otherwise, this entire exercise would be useless, right? Success is not a one-time event. My upline Manoj puts it in the best way I've ever heard. Rent is due every day. All right. So picture this, right? Imagine you have a friend that you keep selling empty promises to. How much will your words mean to them after certain promises?
Feedback. Find people who care enough about you who
If you tell yourself you're going to do something and don't follow through, how much will your own words mean to you after a certain point? Keeping a promise to yourself is what discipline looks like. It is the strongest form of self love. If you keep enough of these promises, you will naturally start managing your time and priorities better without having that overwhelming feeling. Mostly because you've already made the decision beforehand. So you don't have to waste energy on worrying about what you should do or if it's the right thing to do, right? And above all else, you will start earning your own respect. Self-respect leads to self-discipline. And when you have both firmly in your grasp, that is real power. The power to control your future. So, to wrap all this up, number one, you got to make a promise to yourself with your future self's best interest in mind. Then you got to keep that promise. Success is very simple, but it's not easy because it demands execution, not intention. So, hopefully, this advice helps. It was a pleasure sharing with you guys.